Okay, excellent.
Okay.
So thanks everyone for coming online to hear more about Map 2020 and what we're going to be doing throughout June. I'm going to share my screen with you now and we'll walk through what the plan is for the next 50 minutes.
Okay.
So over the course of May, you might have seen, or you definitely saw at least, the blog post from Mapillary, hopefully the blog post from Humanitarian OpenStreetMap. And we've encouraged people from around the world, but particularly in the latitudes 20 degrees north of the equator and 20 degrees south of the equator, to submit ideas around how street level imagery can be contributed to solve humanitarian problems. And the idea behind this was that we really wanted to improve the understanding of street level imagery as a tool in the humanitarian process from beginning to end, rather than just something that comes in at later stages. And so we wanted to help and kind of share some of our learnings on dense image capture and apply them specifically in humanitarian scenarios, and then take the imagery that you guys have collected, derive it, map data using computer vision, and hopefully be able to address the challenge that you outlined in your application. So the reason we invited you guys to the webinar was because we thought you had some really compelling ideas of how imagery could be used for your projects. And so we're going to talk about that at a high level, what Mapillary is, and hopefully that will give you some ideas on how to execute over the next few weeks. And then we'll obviously make ourselves available if you have any questions specifically about your projects at the end. So the plan, we'll just give a quick recap on Map 2020, introduction to Mapillary. We'll go through how you can plan your project, how to capture good imagery that will be useful for your project, how to upload that imagery, and then questions and answers at the end. And as far as the Map 2020 timeline, we're now well past the 1st of June. So the idea is that in this month, you'll be collecting imagery using Mapillary tools. And at the end of the month, we will review the different projects and how much imagery they've contributed and how they're using that imagery. And then the 2 projects that we deem most successful will be funded to go to the Hot Summit in Germany on the 19th and 20th of September. So really that's an opportunity for you guys to share the success of your project, to kind of share your knowledge and the skills that you've built up and how your organization is using imagery and map data in OpenStreetMap. And really the ability to go to the Hot Summit comes down to what happens over the next few weeks as far as image collection. So as I mentioned before, Map 2020 is really focused on the north 20 degrees of the equator and the south 20 degrees of the equator. So that's where you'll find a lot of the humanitarian disasters strike, partly due to climate and partly due to geopolitical, economic factors. But if you see here, you got the 20 degrees north of the equator, just here, kind of runs through sub-Saharan Africa and over Central America. And then the southern 20 degrees as well covers kind of Indonesia, Papua New Guinea, a lot of Oceania, southern parts of Africa, and then a lot of South America as well. So by focusing on this area, I think we're going to include a lot of the different humanitarian challenges that are most pressing. Yep, and then the other part of this challenge is collecting dense imagery. So you might have seen some other projects where people have collected imagery, but it's been taken in a very sparse manner. They might go out and they might collect images one week and not do it again for another year. The idea of this is choosing a small area, but mapping it comprehensively. And we'll talk about some of the tools that enable you to do that and to do it easily. And then also, how can you take this imagery that you've collected and use it to create map data, both Mapillary derived map data, but also stuff that you can see in the images yourself. Before we get in that, I think the background on Mapillary is important. Mapillary basically approaches street level imagery capture from 2 major points of view. And one is that we are a collaborative platform, and that means that people can contribute imagery using a variety of devices and for a variety of different use cases. So we have government contributing imagery, we have humanitarian organizations contributing imagery, we have companies and individuals contributing. The bottom line is that they all have map data that they want to derive from imagery, but they have a device that can enable them to upload geotagged imagery. But as long as they meet that criteria, then they've kind of got a role to play on Mapillary. And so we see all these different players sharing imagery, making use of other people's imagery, and the ecosystem working really well. And I think that's why we've seen so many images contributed from across the world. And it means that if you guys know companies in your area, it might be a delivery company, it might be local government, you can also work with them to collect imagery. And then the second aspect is computer vision. So we're at a stage now where computers can derive a huge amount of information from an image. And if you can see something like a traffic sign or a crosswalk, it means the computer has a high likelihood of being able to derive that information as well. And so that's what we do at Mapillary. We use computer vision technology to identify features. And as I said, it really doesn't matter the device too much as long as it's geotagged. It can take photos that have GPS information. So it could be an action camera, a smartphone, a professional camera like you see Google deploying around the world, or it could be a dash cam. All of these devices can be used. The main thing is that you mount them properly and that you kind of have an idea of how they're going to be used. And so over the June, when you're contributing imagery, your imagery will go to our platform. We're going to reconstruct everything in 3D using computer vision, and I'll show you that in a second. We'll identify objects. We'll make that data available. So if you have a look at our list of features that we detect and there's particular things that you're interested in, we can make them available to you. You can share them, and then that will encourage you guys to upload more imagery for other areas where you need data. So that's kind of the underlying principle of Mapillary. And I'm just going to show you now about some of the underlying computer vision that's taking place on every image you upload. Now, this is obviously probably looks quite a bit different to some of the locations you're collecting imagery, but this is a street in, I believe it's Austria, where our computer vision team is based. And you can see here that every pixel is being labeled. So traffic signs, traffic lights, cars, poles, so different types of utility pole. And all of this is data that is useful for governments, potentially for your projects as well. You might see stuff here that would be useful for you to make conclusions about various things that affect society. And this is made possible through this 3D reconstruction that is created on every image. And the more imagery we get into the network, the better we are able to create this 3D reconstruction. And that means that we can place different types of objects in 3D space. So things like a crosswalk and position it here, different drinking fountains, all sorts of things. So you don't need to worry too much about that just yet, but I think it sets the stage in terms of the imagery that you're collecting and why it's valuable. And in terms of the steps in order to be able to make the use of computer vision data that we derive, the first step is creating an account with Mapillary, which I think you've all done. And then we'll create an organization. We'll talk through how you can create shapes, how you can create capture projects, and assign tasks to various drivers. We'll go through capturing imagery in your assigned task areas, uploading that imagery, and then preparing for map editing, which is a webinar that we'll have probably in 2 weeks from now. So the first thing I'm going to show you as far as project planning is Mapillary for organizations. And this is a tool that allows you to take different usernames that you might have, different people that are in your area collaborating with you, and to have them all under the same organization so that you can share imagery quite easily. And it's very easy to create an organization. You just go to your account, log into your account, and you'll see here, like I've got my account here, but all these organizations I'm a part of. And then down at the bottom, you can click to create a new organization and type it in there. And then once you've created your organization, you can switch to it here. So I'm now in the Mapillary organization rather than my own personal account. And I can go to team, and then I can add in different team members that are useful for me, or that I think should be part of the organization. So I can type in, say, Brenna, and add her. And then you can assign different roles. So Brenna will be added down here somewhere. Oops. Might have to assign her a role. Might have to refresh it, but Brenna will be added here, and then she can be given one of 3 roles. She can be assigned as a contributor, a member, or an admin. There we go. So we're going to make her an admin, and that means that she can create tasks, she can create projects, and assign other members to the organization. So this is something that I encourage you all to do as step 1, or step 2 rather, once you've created your accounts, is create an organization if you know other people in your area that would be contributing imagery. And that means that it's just going to be easy to track your progress. And so once you've done that, you can then start to look at other things like creating a shape. And this is where you define your area of interest. So within the Mapillary organization, we have a list of shapes that we've created. So I'm going to show you one here that I created in New South Wales, Australia. So this is a very small area called Surrey Hills. And to create a shape, you just go again on the side here to shapes list. You can add a new shape. We'll call this webinar 3 shape. And you can either search for a place or draw the shape. Does anyone want to give a suggestion of a location that I should create a test shape in? We'll have a look. Any ideas for locations? Philippines. Okay, so we'll try. Philippines is a pretty big one, so we might narrow down. Let's do San Juan, Philippines. Try Quezon. Is it Quezon? Quezon. There we go. We'll try Quezon City. So there we go. That's a pretty sizable shape. And we can see here that the shape has 423.5 or 432.5 kilometers of mapillary imagery, and that's all available to the public. We can see that the total road network is 2,631 kilometers. And there's been 17,000.2 traffic signs identified in the city. So this is just a good way to work out how much imagery you need to capture. But for this project, we're going to be encouraging pretty small areas, because as we said at the beginning, it's much better to have a small area that you can complete to 100%. Something like this, you can see they've captured every road in the city in this area. It's better to do this rather than try and do the whole Quezon city and miss a lot of roads. Because if you focus on an area like this and you know that you've captured every street, then we can derive map data in that area and know that we're getting a pretty good reflection of the situation on the ground there. So I've showed you organizations, I've showed you shapes and how to create them. And this leads us to the third and final organizational tool that I want to show you today, and that's Capture Projects. And again, you can access that in your organization dashboard on the side here. And you'll find it under Imagery Capture. Now you'll need to request access to this. So you'll see a a pop-up just here, which will say request access to capture projects. That'll send us a notification and then we'll grant you access. So make sure to do that with your organization. But this organization already has, so I'm just going to mute you, Chris, because there's a bit of background noise. Or maybe it's not Chris. Sorry, it's not you, Chris. Yeah, that's better. So yeah, so capture projects are a tool to then be able to divide up an area into zones. So you can see here, we've got Malmo where Mapillary is based and we've divided that into zones. We also have other capture projects we've created. You see them all listed here. You really only need one for your project. But the benefit of capture projects is that you can then tell different people in your team to collect imagery in this location. So I'm going to load up Point Lonsdale. While this is loading, feel free to hit me with questions either in the chat or just speak out if you've got any questions as they come up, because it's probably a lot to take in and I don't want you forgetting questions that you might have had earlier on. Yeah, that's a good question. There's no need to create an organization, Chris. You can work without it. It's just, if you think it might be useful for it to coordinate, but if you don't have an organization, you can just capture using the Mapillary app, and I'll talk about that in a second. So here I've assigned myself to different zones, but you can also assign whoever else is in your capture project. So I've only got one driver, but I could add other drivers if I wanted to, anyone in this organization. So I could add Brenna. Brenna's gonna have to fly to Australia and help me with this capture project now. She will get this zone here. And then when she loads up what we call our drivers app, she'll be able to see this location and that it's a priority area. So that's capture projects. Again, a lot to take in, but I just want to put it out there because I think it would be a useful tool for those that feel like they need a bit more organization for a larger team. But beyond capture projects, there's quite a simple way to capture, and that's just with the Mapillary app. So maybe Chris, for example, could just use that. Has anyone not seen the Mapillary app so far? Is this kind of first time for you guys, or have you seen and used the app to quite a degree already? I'll just assume that you're seeing it for the first time then. And this is kind of the screen that you'll see when you open it up and you go to the capture view. So this is Mapillary's, as I say, capture view. And when you load it up, you'll see up the top an indicator as to your GPS accuracy. And the first thing you're going to have to do is wait for this to get to either good, where it becomes orange, or green, where it becomes the best GPS accuracy. And this will determine how well your images are placed on the map and what kind of map data we are able to derive. And you see here, it's in automatic mode here, and then here it's in manual mode. I think almost all of you will want to use automatic mode. And what that means is that when you walk, it's going to take photos at intervals and you won't need to press anything. You just press the red button to start. But once you've done that, the app will take photos automatically as you move, and you'll see the counter increasing here. And you can even change the settings to tell it to take photos every half a second or every 2 seconds. It really comes down to you and how much imagery you're able to collect. But very easy to download the app, get this capture window open, and then start walking around the street.
The
other thing is,
Chris, what did you say? Can you not see the screen?
Yes, please.
Sorry, I missed that. Can you see the screen now, Chris? Okay, we might have to share this presentation with Chris afterwards. So I'll just continue on. So once you've tested out Capture, I think this is something you can all do this afternoon, is just to head out in your street with the Capture app and take, say, 100 images or 10 images and get a sense of how the app works. If you're mounting the camera to a car, then I would recommend setting the compass pointing direction. And this just tells Mapillary where the camera is facing, so that when the imagery is uploaded to our platform, the compass angle is correct, and that helps us, place the images relative to other images that we might have, and to identify map data more accurately. So if you're placing it on the front of the car, you can just select forward facing and choose any of these angles. And that's a practice that you should be doing whenever you're mounting the vehicle to a car or to a bicycle. And if you have any questions on that, just send them through to Brennan and I, and we can help you out, but it should be pretty straightforward. And then lastly is the uploading part. So in the bottom, you see a range of different features within the app. So you have the home screen, you have the explore screen where you can see other imagery around the world, the capture screen, which I was just showing you is probably the most important thing. And then you have the upload screen. So it shows you all the images that have been taken on your device on the side here, all the sequences. You can go in and review and delete each of the photos you've taken, or you can just hit upload, which is the big green button. You can upload them all at once, so you can choose individual sequences to upload. Those images, once you've uploaded, will delete from your phone to save space. So you'll be able to view them on Mapillary, but they'll delete from your phone. As far as quality, I think these are the three important things to consider when you're going out to capture: making sure the camera is level with the horizon. And you would have seen the viewfinder here that helps you do that. Just make sure that's nice and level with the horizon, and that you're holding the camera horizontally like this, and that it's a consistent angle. So what I mean by that is, if you're facing, if the car is driving and your camera is mounted to the front of the car, that the camera is always mounted to the front of the car during the duration of capture. Or that if you're walking, the camera is facing in front of you the whole time, and that you're not turning it left and turning it right. Just move with the camera in front of you the whole time. That makes for much better imagery and is a much better viewing experience for people. And lastly, make sure that no obstructions are visible. So you don't want, rain on the windshield or parts of the car obstructing the field of view. So things like this, when the camera is not level with the horizon, or that the window is really dirty and foggy and it's dark, it just makes it very hard for the computer and humans to derive map data. As I said, when it's raining, not a good idea to capture. And here the camera or the phone is quite a fair way inside the car. So you get the mount here, you get reflections on the windshield, you get the dashboard. So all of this is just preventing people from being able to see good map data. So I would say this is bad imagery. And then, of course, if you capture at night, that's just not going to work either. So those are the conditions. Capture during the day, make sure the camera is level with the horizon, that there are no obstructions, and you should have pretty useful map data or imagery that you can use within OpenStreetMap, and then map data that Mapillary derives automatically. So I know we've covered a lot. I've taken about half an hour, 20 minutes to half an hour to do that. I think for the remaining time that we have, it would be good to go through questions that you might have, and I can just address them one by one. Did anyone have any questions up to this point? Hopefully it's pretty straightforward then. Too easy. Do any of you think you'll be creating organizations, or do you think you'll prefer to just capture imagery by yourselves? A very silent audience. Capture images of short distances. So what's your area of focus again, Chris? Which part of the city do you know that you want to map? Do you have an idea of, actually we could find that now. We can see if we can create a shape. We can get a sense of the length of the road network. I'm just searching for your shape now, Chris. There's 0 imagery there currently, it looks like. Where are we? Well, that didn't work so well. No, there's no limit on distance. No limit on, the more the better. So upload as much imagery as you can. I think there will be some constraints on uploading. So there might be some of you might have slow internet connections, and that's going to be an issue as far as getting images on Mapillary. And so I think when that happens, if you find that you're leaving your phone overnight or you're leaving your device overnight to upload and it doesn't seem to be progressing, you definitely need to contact Brenner and I as soon as possible, and we will see if we can connect you with a local organization in the area, let's say the World Bank, the Red Cross, an embassy, and they've all been very helpful in either shipping SD cards, so shipping the actual cards that are collecting the data to a place like Sweden where we can upload, or actually uploading the images from the offices that they have there. So for example, in Dar es Salaam, we had people collecting, and the imagery, the internet was quite slow. So they gave the images to the World Bank and they were able to upload all of them on the organization's behalf. So you'll know if they're good for map editing if they meet some of the conditions I outlined here. And as they come in, you can also have a look. We're going to have another webinar in 2 weeks to show you the map editing workflow. Let's say we'll go to Cape Coast in Ghana, because quite a bit of injury there from the Youth Mappers chapter. And so we can zoom in on an image, and once it loads, we'll be able to select it and see whether it's any good for map editing. For example, this one, it's probably taken on foot, I'm guessing. Yep, looks like it's taken on foot. So you can see the camera. I mean, this is not a bad sequence, but you can see the camera's moving around quite a bit. The steadier you keep your hands, the better. So what we can do here is in mapillary.com, we can actually go to map data up here, and we can turn on, let's say, traffic signs and see what traffic signs were identified in the images. Just a little while to load. So you can see further up, there was a 30km/h speed sign that was detected. So we can click on that and see whether that's true. It's saying it was identified twice. Yep, so there's 2 different objects and they were identified in 3 different images. And then we go there, click on the first one, and we can see that yes, there was a 30km/h sign there. So we could then load this in and say edit via ID. Again, we'll show you this in the OpenStreetMap webinar, but hopefully showing you today will give you an idea of how imagery is useful. But we can go edit via ID, and that'll open up the OpenStreetMap ID editor interface, which is a tool to obviously dive into OpenStreetMap data online. You don't need to download any software. And Mapillary imagery is available within ID Editor, this editing tool. It's also available in the desktop tool called Java OpenStreetMap. And so you can click on either of them. If you have JOSM installed, you can click on that and it'll open up that area in JOSM. And once you've got that area opened up, you can just activate the Mapillary photo overlay and the traffic sign overlay. And then that'll load exactly what we were just looking at, so we can match it up. We know that it was facing this way, and we can zoom in, and hopefully that imagery should load soon. There we go. Looks like there should be a bit more. Just give it a little while to load. My internet is not the greatest. There we go. So we're seeing the signs loaded. So again, this is something you can see directly in OpenStreetMap. And then we can check University Avenue here. So you see someone's already added the speed limit. But what we can do is then we can say 2 lanes, because we can see there's 2 lanes. 1 way, yes, that's correct, because there's another 1-way road going the other way. And then we can go to University Avenue on the other side and add 2 lanes. I think that's about all the information we can add for the moment. And then we'll save that. Added lane information. And you can see here the source is already Mapillary because it knows that we were looking at Mapillary imagery there. And then we can upload that. So you might choose to do it for things like traffic signs. You might choose to do it for things like crosswalks or bike lanes. It really comes down to your projects, and you've all had really good ideas on how to use street level imagery. So take a look at everything here. There's traffic signs. There's also point features that's probably more relevant, things like fire hydrants. Catherine, I don't know if you're in contact with Erwin, but he's done a lot of great fire hydrant mapping in Manila. So that might be something to coordinate with him on. I don't think there's any fire hydrants detected here, but we can see what other point features are identified. This is quite internet intensive, so we'll zoom in. No, that's not the case. Yeah, you don't need to create shapes. You don't need to create organizations. They're just tools to help you coordinate. You can do all of this just by getting the app, downloading the app, and then going to capture imagery. So what should be happening now is we should be seeing a bunch of different points that are identified. Might try a different location. We'll turn that off. We'll go to Amsterdam. This is a city where the government has given us about 700,000 360-degree images. So it's a really good location to look at the kind of data that Mapillary can detect. I'm having very slow internet right now, but I'll see if I've got any. I can actually show you a screenshot of what it should look like, and you should explore this as well. Anyone can look at this by just going to point features here and having a look at an area with imagery. And then you'll see at least some of the features that are detected here. Water valves, that might be one that's useful for your projects. Utility poles, as I said, crosswalks, which is really important for knowing where pedestrians can access the road. Bike lanes, fire hydrants, CCTV cameras. So please do take a look at this list and let us know if there's any of these features that you would like for your projects. And then you'll be able to see them on the map like this. We can also provide them as what's called a GeoJSON or a shapefile, which are common file formats for geographic data. And we can share that with you so that you can load it into OpenStreetMap directly. And if that kind of feels confusing right now, don't worry, we're going to have another webinar in 2 weeks for the OpenStreetMap side. So I think the most important thing for the next week is to test the app, to go out and capture imagery and let us know how you go. Let us know if you're interested in Mapillary for organizations or if you're interested in Mapillary shapes, capture projects, and we'll walk you through that. But it's collect imagery and then view it in different editing tools like ID Editor, and you should be off to a very good start. So I don't get your question. So Chris, you can start by downloading the app. This is the app. You can go to the Mapillary App Store and download the app, either on Android or iOS, and then just follow the steps here to capture. There's also help pages, which are very important for any information. So you can go to the help pages here and have a look at the quick guides on getting started, and that'll walk you through how to get started capturing imagery to Mapillary. Because Jan, I didn't exactly get your question there. You said, I never paid attention to the name of the project. So it seems that mapping Istanbul is meaningless for this project. What about Jessica and Catherine? Is everything kind of clear on your ends? Okay, excellent. Okay, great, Chris. So if you've downloaded it ready, you're good to go. Just create the account and get out and start capturing. Yeah, so I did say at the start, so there is exceptions. So I think 2020 covers most of the world, but we've had some locations submitted from elsewhere and they're welcome to participate. So Istanbul being one of them, that's obviously at a higher latitude. So Chris, the main thing, if you're already contributing imagery, like in regards to the project, you just need to make sure that the imagery is being used for map editing as well. So I would get in contact with us and show us the area you're focused on. You need to define your area of interest. And that's where Mapillary for Organizations is useful. As I said, you can draw a shape for an area you're interested in. And once you've captured imagery in that location, you can then start to focus on the map editing side of things. So what we'll do at that stage, I'll give you a quick sneak peek, is track the edits that you make. And so we'll be able to see whether you're adding benches to the map, whether you're adding crosswalks to the map, but you'll be doing so from the imagery. So that's why it's really important now, between now and the next 2 weeks, to capture as much imagery as you can, because then you'll have imagery that you can use for map editing. And there'll be a leaderboard like this one, which is taking a while to load, but it will track how much you've added to the map. All right, so yeah, excellent, thanks, Chris. So we'll send this documentation so that you can follow offline, and then as I said at the end, there's Mapillary and I, from Mapillary, there's Brenner and I available to help out. And then on the humanitarian OpenStreetMap, if you have questions about specifically how HOT can support your different projects or whether there's different organizations in your area that you should be partnering with, that's where Jessica can come in handy and provide support.
Yes.
And then,
there's
like I mentioned,
there's no, of course you can participate in this. That was just kind of a guideline to 2020. So yes, please, we would love to have you participate.
Yeah, spot on, as Brenna said. Thanks for your time, everyone. If we're going to have this webinar, I think at least one other time. So if you're feeling like this was a bit confusing or you joined late, you can look at the slides that we sent through, but you can also join another webinar if you'd like to have an idea of kind of capture projects in more detail. Yes, we will be doing that, Chris, but don't worry about that just yet. I mean, you're asking great questions. So there will be a hashtag that we'll use. That'll be the hashtag Map 2020, but that won't start for 2 weeks. So just focus on the image collection at the moment.
And this, for those joining late, this webinar is recorded, so I'm going to be uploading this soon. So if you want to watch it again, it'll be there. And the future ones too, if you can't make, we'll have that recorded as well. But like I said, if you have any questions or need anything, you can reach out to either Ed or I, and we are more than happy to help you out.
So Chris was asking about how to track the different map edits that take place in the second half of the challenge. And that'll be a website that we'll share with you. So that's what I was trying to show you here. Here we go. So it's loaded now. So it's going to look like this. And it will have the name of the feature that you've added and how many you've added, and then your score. And it will track that because you've used the hashtag Mapillary 2020. So when you save something like that, you go save, and then you just go hashtag map 2020, and then we'll be able to track your changes like that. All right, so we'll wrap it up there. Brenna's mentioned earlier that we have the recording. Where will we make that available, do you think, Brenna?
I'm gonna put it on YouTube just so we have an easy link to share. But if anybody wants it emailed to them, you can just email me. But I'm gonna try to find a way to get all of this sent to everyone in an email shortly.
Yeah, don't worry about hashtags on imagery. Any imagery that you upload, we'll know because we've got your username that you submitted for the Map 2020 project. No, not every upload. So upload imagery. Uploading imagery is very easy. You just need to use the app as I showed you before. So just here, there's no hashtag needed. Just share with us the usernames. You've submitted a list of usernames that you're contributing to the project. So we'll be tracking those. If there's any other usernames that are collecting imagery, share those with us. But it really comes down to just the username. There's no need for hashtags at this part. The hashtags is just for editing the map. But as long as you're uploading imagery in your area, and you've told us that you're doing so, then we'll be able to track your progress there. Yeah, as Chris said, yeah, tracking the imagery automatically. Thanks to you guys for joining the call and for the good questions. And we'll speak soon. So have a good night, everyone. And please do reach out if you have any questions. Until then, adios. You're talking about the map editing, Catherine? Yeah, the map editing is a different session. So we're going to have a webinar in 2 weeks to focus on that. And that is where I mean, it's not linked to your images, it's linked to your edits. So if you make any map edits like this, you know, moving a road or adding information into the road, that is where the hashtag is important. And that's just needed here in the change set. I wouldn't worry about this yet. This is something that we'll do in 2 weeks. The focus for now is just to upload imagery, and no hashtag is needed to upload imagery.
Great.
Great. Thanks, guys. See you.
Have a good one, guys.